Chulin Daf Chavav. We're starting in the Mishnah Daf Chavav Beis. The Mishnah is going to list two cases of single halachos that its dinim are change consistently. Unlike the previous list we had in the Mishnah that's discussing two separate halachos that have an inverse relationship, over here we're going to be discussing two cases of individual halachos, and each one of those individual cases has its detailed consequences change consistently. It says in the Mishnah, Temed ad shelo yichmitz. The first case we're going to be discussing is regarding mead, temed. Temed is loosely translated as mead. It's basically they used to finish with the grapes, when they used to make wine from grapes, the recrements that are left over, the remnants of the grapes, which is made out of, you have the peel and the pits, seeds of the grapes, and that they had left over, and they would soak it in water and make mead, make temed out of it. And that eventually ferments. And the discussion in our Mishnah is going to revolve around the fact of whether temed is considered water or wine. When is it considered water? When is it considered wine? So until it ferments, it's considered water, and it will have all implications of what any halachic issues with water. And after it ferments, it will have a status like wine, and all the halachic implications of being wine. That's the first case. So let's read. Atemed ad shelo yichmitz. If you have mead before it ferments, before it has any alcohol, so it's considered water, and therefore ein nikach b'kesef meiser, cannot be bought with meiser money. Meiser sheni money is when you separate meiser sheni in your home city, and then you take the produce, which is meiser, and redeem it onto money. You take the money and you spend it when you come to Yerushalayim. Now, with that money, you can only buy certain things. You can't buy everything. We learn that from the Pesukim that it has to be something that's from Gidulei Karka, something that's from the ground. So you cannot buy water with the money of meiser sheni, but you can buy wine. So this temed ad shelo yichmitz, because it hasn't fermented yet, it has a status like water, and you can't buy with kesef meiser. Upaisel sam mikvah. However, because it is considered water, it does disqualify a mikvah. If you have a mikvah that is less than 40 sa'ah, in order for a mikvah to be kosher, to immerse in and come out pure, then you need it to be a complete 40 sa'ah of natural rainwater. If you have a complete 40 sa'ah of natural rainwater, so then you can throw all the waters in the world into the mikvah, and it will not disqualify the mikvah. However, if you have a less than 40 sa'ah, so then if you throw in 3 lugin of mayim she'uvim, of water that's drawn by a person, and not natural rainwater that flows in on its own accord, then it will disqualify the mikvah. 3 lugin disqualify the mikvah if it's incomplete. And then you would have to exchange all the water to get new natural rainwater. So, says the Mishnah, that since this temed, this mead, still has a halachic status of water, because it hasn't fermented yet, therefore, if someone would take temed and pour it into a mikvah that's incomplete, that doesn't have 40 sa'ah, if he pours 3 lugin of this of this temed, which is sha'uv, into the mikvah, he will disqualify the mikvah because the temed has the status of water. However, misha yichmitz, says the Mishnah, once it ferments, so then it has the status of wine, and is nikach b'kesef meiser, you can buy it with meiser money because it's wine, and it comes from gidulei karka, it comes from something grown in the ground. The eino paisel as a mikvah, and because it's wine and not water, it does not disqualify the mikvah, because the rule is that only mayim she'uvim, only water that's drawn, disqualifies a mikvah, and not yayin, not wine. It won't complete the mikvah to its 40 sa'ah measurement, but it won't disqualify the mikvah. Continues the mission to the next case. Ha'achin ha'shutafin, if you have brothers that are partners. So when they are chayavin b'kalboin, they are pturin mimaiser behema. This part of the Mishnah is discussing the question of when are brothers considered partners and when are they not considered partners. If they inherited their father's estate and never actually split the estate, they just continued managing it as the entity that it was when their father was still alive, so then they're not considered partners. But if they split it and they separated the estate into two different parts, and then even if they come together again and work together as partners and bring the estate back together again as a partnership, they're still considered partners. And this following case in the Mishnah is going to revolve around whether they are considered partners or really it's considered one entity. So ha'achin hashutz, and if you have brothers that are partners, kishechayav mekalbin, when they're chayav in the kalboin. The kalboin is a little coin that would be brought together with your shekel. We have to bring a machzis shekel every year. Every Jew has to bring a machzis shekel to the mizbeach, to the Beis HaMikdash. And the rule is you're supposed to give half a shekel coin. However, if you don't want to give a half a shekel coin and two people come together and bring one full shekel. So if they bring one full shekel, they both have to bring a kalbon. And they have to pay another fee. What's this fee? This fee was the amount of money it would cost if you were to go to a bank or a shulchani and exchange the shekel into two machzis shekels. That would cost you 2 kalbons. And therefore, that fee, if you have two people coming together and instead of each one bringing a machzis shekel, half a shekel coin, they would together bring a shekel coin for both of them. So they would have to pay the change fee to the Beis HaMikdash instead of you got out of the fee by not going to a shulchani and paying him the kalbon. So you have to pay that kalbon to the Beis HaMikdash. Now the rule is that you're only obligated to pay the kalbon if you're donating the shekel for yourself, the machzis shekel for yourselves. Two people are fulfilling the obligation of machzis shekel by donating 1 shekel for themselves. But if you're paying for someone else's machzis shekel, if he's a poor person or your neighbor or your son, so then you're exempt from the kalbon. So, if you have brothers that are partners, when they are obligated in kalbon because they are considered a partnership, because they already split the estate that they inherited from their father. They split it and it became 2 entities, and then they became partners. So because they became partners, they really considered 2 individuals, and the estate that they're taking the money from is considered from 2 individuals. Both individuals are obligated and they have to bring the kalbon. But the pturin mimaiser behema. Maiser behema means the 10th animal that you have to bring as a korban. And the rule is that only maiser behema, only individuals who own animals have to bring maiser behema. Only if it's individually owned. But if it's owned by a partnership, then it's exempt from maiser behema. But keshechayavim b'maiser behema. Now these brothers, when they are chayav in maiser behema, meaning that when they are not considered a partnership. How are they not considered a partnership? If when they inherited their father's estate, they never split it. It just stayed as one entity, as if their father was still alive, and they're just the managers. They just happen to be the owners. But they didn't actually split it. So the estate stayed as one entity. So the animals are looked at as if it's owned by one person, and therefore it is chayav in maiser behema. But they are ptur min kalbon. But in that situation, they are going to be patur from the kalbon because the money that's paying for their machzis shekel is all coming from the father's estate. It's as if the father's still alive and paying their machzis shekel. And when you pay for someone else's machzis shekel, you don't have to pay. Even if you bring it as a shekel, you don't have to pay the kalbon. So this extra fee of kalbon only is only obligated upon the person who does not pay for someone else. But if you pay for someone else, you're exempt from the kalbon, and since they never split the property, and the property is considered one entity, and it's as if the father's paying them, and they are exempt from bringing the kalbon. So over here we see how the dinim of shutfus can can change consistently regarding Meiser Behema and the Kalbain. Says the Gemara, Mani Masnisin, who is the author of our Mishnah? Who's the Mishnah going according to? Lo Rabbi Yehuda, lo Rabbanan. It seems to be not going according to the opinion of Yehuda or Rabbanan. The Tanya, it says in the Brayta, Misamid. If you make temed, if you make this mead, we're going back to the first case of the Mishnah regarding mead. V'nosan mayim b'mida. So if you made mead and you put water at a certain amount of water, you put into this remnants or recrements, really they're called, of grapes. You put it in. You put water in, and you know exactly how much you put, a certain amount of water. Umatza kedei midasai, and then you found, after it already soaked into the water, after the peels and pits soaked into the water, you still found the exact amount of water. The water level did not rise, the volume did not increase at all. So then, Potter says, say the Chachamim, you're exempt from bringing Meiser. Why are you exempt from bringing Meiser? Because there's no wine here, it's all water. If there was wine, if it became wine at all, it would have increased in volume. If the peels and pits added anything to the water, it would have increased in volume. For the fact that it didn't increase in volume, it's only still water, and therefore you're potter from Meiser. Rabbi Yehuda Mechayev. Rabbi Yehuda still holds, no, you are obligated. Because it's considered temet. We'll see. We'll see where Rabbi Yehuda holds. Mani asks Gemara, who is our Mishnah going according to? If our Mishnah is going according to the Rabbanan, so even if it's hichmitz, the Rabbanan hold that even if the wine fermented and became alcoholic, the temet fermented, still it will not have a din of yain if it doesn't increase in volume. And therefore, our Mishnah that says all you need for it to become wine is the chimutz, that's not consistent with the Rabbanan who hold you need to increase, and the chimutz doesn't make a difference. Rabbi Yehuda, and if our Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Yehuda, well, Rabbi Yehuda holds afagav deloy chimutz. He holds, even if it seems to be from this Mishnah that he holds, this brisa that he holds, that even if it hasn't fermented, it's still considered yayin, even though it didn't ferment and it didn't increase in volume. All he cares about is that you soaked it in, and therefore it can have a din of wine. And our Mishnah seems to hold it has to ferment, it has to actually become alcoholic. Amar Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman says in the name of Rabbi Bar Avuha, as we finally get to Chavav Amar Aleph, b'shehichmitz machlokes. The machlokes in the brisa is all talking about b'shehichmitz, meaning their argument in the brisa we just read only starts if there was chimutz, if it had fermented already, and then they argue as to does it have to increase in volume or not, or Chachamim hold yeah, and Rabbi Yehuda holds no. Umasnis and Rabbi Yehuda. However, our Mishnah that says that it doesn't, that seems to imply that we all we need is the chimutz, we do not need an increase in volume. The Mishnah does not mention any increase in volume. That's going according to Rabbi Yehuda. And so Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina said b'shehechmitz machlokes. The machlokes in the brisa is also all b'shehechmitz once it fermented. That's where they argue, and that's the machlokes. The Amar of Nachman, Amar Rabbi Bar Avuha. Says Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Avuha, temed shelokchoi b'kesef meiser. If you take temed b'kesef meiser before it had fermented. Let's say you buy this mead before it ferments, and you buy it as kesef meiser, which we said you really can't. The Mishnah says you can't because it's considered water. However, levasayf hichmitz, and then later on it actually ferments. So therefore, he says kona meiser. Then it works. It works retroactively. Why? My time igloy milsalam afreya. It's revealed retroactively to peirahu that it's not water. It's fruit, meaning it's grape juice. This is grape juice, this is wine. We know it's wine from the fact that it was machmitz later on the fact that it ended up fermenting, so that reveals to us retroactively that when I actually bought it, that it had the potential this mead had the potential of becoming wine all along, which means that at that point it was also pera. At that point it was really the grapes, the grape remnants were instilled in the water, and therefore even at that point it had a status of wine. It had a status of juice and not just water. And therefore, when you had bought it with Kesef Meiser, it really, the acquisition did take place, and we just didn't know back then if it was considered wine yet or not, because it wasn't machmitz. But once we see it's machmitz, so then retroactively we know. So says the Gemara, according to our Mishnah, it sounds like no, we don't go retroactively. It doesn't make a difference if afterwards it was machmitz or not. The Mishnah says if it's chametz, if it's fermented now, then you can buy it with kesef meiser. If not. So our Mishnah doesn't differentiate. Only if it was machmitz, if it wasn't machmitz, not. And if you go ahead and you buy this temed with kesef meiser, it does not work. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Dilma ishavki ava machmitz. Maybe if you were to leave the temed, it would become chametz. And why is the Mishnah disqualifying the sale, disqualifying the person who bought this temed with kesef meiser? Maybe if you wait, then the water will become chametz, and therefore, how could you disqualify the sale if maybe in the future it'll be revealed to us that really right now, when you bought it, it was considered wine? Amar Rabba answers, the Mishnah is talking about a case when you know for sure that it did not ferment because you left over a sample. You stuck a sample of water in a cup, and you kept it by you, and you saw that it didn't ferment. So then you're able to know that the rest of it didn't ferment either. If this sample didn't ferment, so too the rest didn't ferment, and therefore you know it's not a sale, and therefore you have to get the kesef meiser back. And meaning this whole discussion is that since you're taking the money and buying, once you take the money and you buy yain with it, so now the money becomes free of kedusha. The money used to have kedushas meiser sheni because you redeemed the produce that you separated back in your house onto the money. And now the money has kedusha. Now you take the money and you buy wine in Yerushalayim. So now the money becomes chulin. Now it's just regular money, can be used by anyone for anything. But the way the kedusha leaves the money is only if you bought with it something that meiser sheni is allowed to buy legally. But if you buy water with it, so then the kedusha stays on the money, and therefore it's very important for us to know whether or not what you bought was mayim or yain, and therefore the Gemara is saying that really we do hold that retroactively it would be a sale and the money would be chulin, but over here we're talking about a case where you left over a sample of water and you were able to tell that it would never have fermented, and therefore the sale never worked and the money is still holy. Rava has a different answer. No, Hamani Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Our Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So really, what Rabbi Nachman is saying is not going according to our Mishnah. He's going according to the Tana that argues on Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and our Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Ditnan. The Mishnah Mikvo says, Gimel Lugin. Mayim, if you have 3 lugin of mayim that are chaser kurtuv, that are missing a kurtuv. A kurtuv is a measurement, and so if you have gimel lugin of mayim, but it's missing a small measurement of a kurtuv, then shenofal l'seichen kurtuv yayin, and then a kurtuv of wine fell in. So you have 3 lugin of liquid. The majority is water. Only a kurtuv of it is wine. Umarein kamar yayin. However, it looks like wine. And it falls into the mikvah, it will not passel the mikvah. Like we discussed before in the Mishnah, that if you have a mikvah that is missing its proper amount of water, it doesn't have 40 of natural rainwater, then if you throw in 3 lugin of mayim she'uvim, then it disqualifies the mikvah. Now this Mishnah is teaching us that if it's not a full 3 lugin of mayim, mixed into it is a little bit of wine, and that changed the color, then it's not considered water and it doesn't disqualify the mikvah. And the same thing would be true according to if you have gimel lugin mayim chaser kurtuv, if you have 3 lugin without missing a kurtuv, it's 3 lugin minus the kurtuv, and then shenafal asechin kurtuv chalav, then you add a kurtuv of chalav, umarein kemar mayim, and it looks like water. Even though it looks like water, it doesn't. The milk isn't strong enough to change the color of the water. It looks like water. Still v'naflu l'mikvah lo paslu. They do not. It's not puzzle because you need 3 lugin of actual water that is drawn, that is she'uvim, that is drawn by a person to disqualify a mikvah that's missing. That's missing the right amount of water. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says no. Hakol halach achar mare. It's all dependent on the mar'eh, which means the color, the way it looks, the way the water looks. If the water looks like wine, so then it has a status like wine, and it will not disqualify the mikvah. But if you threw in milk and the milk doesn't change the color of the water, now it still looks like water. So I don't care that it wasn't a complete 3 lugin of water. It's still, the whole thing is considered water, and it will disqualify the mikvah because it's 3 lugin of mayim she'uvim. Lav Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Now continues the Gemara, continues Rava to explain his answer that he's trying to answer in our sugya. Lav Omer Rabbi Yochanan, did Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri not say basar chazusa as lina, that we go by the chazusa, which means we go by the way it looks? Hachanami, also over here, zil basar chazusa v'taima. In our situation, when we're dealing with defining the mead right now as to whether it's considered water or wine, so then also he also over here, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would hold that all we care about is how it tastes and how it looks right now. And if right now it doesn't taste like wine and it doesn't look like wine, so then it has to din like water. And I don't care if it has the potential of fermenting and has the potential of becoming wine, but right now it's not considered wine. The chazusa dehai, and since the chazusa, since the image, the look of this meat is maya, is considered is water, so then it's mayininu. Since the chazusa dehai mayininu, and the image of this meat is like water, and therefore our Mishnah says that since it looks like water and tastes like water, it's going to have a din like water, and you cannot buy it with meiser sheni money. And I don't care if it has the potential of becoming wine, and I don't care if right now we know that the remnants of grapes did absorb into the water. It still doesn't make a difference because right now it doesn't look like wine and doesn't taste like wine. And that therefore our Mishnah doesn't differentiate, and we don't care. We just say that as long as it's not fermented, it's going to have a din like water. The other shita that we saw before, that Reb Nachman says that retroactively we see it as if if it ferments later, then retroactively we see it as if all along it was yayin. He holds that it's not dependent on whether it looks or tastes like wine right now. It's just dependent on whether the grapes and the remnants of the grapes permeated into the water, and then it's called mei peres, it's called wine, it's called grape juice at that point. Okay, continues the Gemara. Upligo de Rabbi Lazar. We're going back to explain the machlokes we saw on Chaf Hei Amud Beis, the brisa that quotes the machlokes in Rebbeinu Chachamim, that says that Rebbeinu Chachamim argue as to whether something is considered water or wine. And Reb Nachman said that the entire machlokes was b'shehichmitz. when it became chametz, then there's a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim as to whether if the temed increased in volume, then the Chachamim say that it's chayav in meiser because it's considered wine, and Rabbi Yehuda says even if it didn't increase in volume, it's still considered peira, it's still considered fruit juice, and therefore it's chayav in meiser. So now we're saying that explanation of the machlokes is pliga de Rabbi Elazar, argues with Rabbi Elazar, Dam Rabbi Elazar, because Rabbi Elazar explained hakol moedim, everyone agrees, meaning Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim both agree, she'ein mafrishin alav mimokim acher, that you cannot take meiser from this temed, you can't separate meiser on this temed from somewhere else, from some other place. If you have wine in your cellar and you want to separate that wine for this temed, so then everyone agrees that you can't do that, elaim ken hechmitz, unless it had fermented. But if it did ferment, then the Chachamim agree that if it was machmitz, then you can be mafresh mimakam acher. So everyone agrees that you can't be mafresh, you can't separate meiser from somewhere else onto this unless it was machmitz. Because Kasover, he holds below hichmitz machlokes. So the machlokes between the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda is when there is no chimutz. When it hasn't fermented, that's when there's a machlokes. And Rabbi Yehuda's only obligates you to separate meiser from it itself. Meaning you have to separate from this mead itself a tenth for meiser. But not from aval me'al maloi, you can't take wine from somewhere else and separate meiser onto this mead. Dilma asile frushe min achiyuv ala pater min pater ala chiyuv, because you might come to separate min achiyuv ala pater from something that's chayav in meiser onto something that's pater. Meaning, if this mead is really pater because it's really water, so then you're taking real wine and using that to separate from this, and really there's no separation, because since this is the temed is really not chayav, so then your separation was nothing, and therefore it's still tevel. And if a Levi eats that, so then it's a big problem. He's eating tevel. And even if you want to use other temed, and you want to go to your basement, your cellar, and separate this temed for the other temed, also it's not going to be good, because maybe the temed that you're separating for is going to be machmitz, and that's going to have a status like wine, because it's going to become wine. And the temets that you're actually separating and making into meiser and giving it to Levi, that won't become yain. Maybe that will sticks to its status of water, and if it sticks to the status of water, so then it's not chayiv at all, it's potter. So that's mina potter ala chiyuv, and in essence you never separated on the other temet, because you just separated water on wine, and that doesn't work. And therefore he says you can only separate, Rabbi Yehuda holds, you can only separate from within the same temet, the same batch of temet. And therefore Rabbi Elazar is explaining the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim only b'shaloi hechmitz. In a situation where it's not hechmitz, Rabbi Yehuda holds you do have to be ma'aser within the same batch, and Chachamim hold no, you don't have to be choshish, you don't have to be ma'aser within the same batch if it's not fermented yet. And however, if there was a chimutz, so then everyone agrees that you have to be me'aser you can even be maser from another batch. We can just add another element and explain that the Chachamim only argue on Yehuda in a case where it didn't become chametz, where it didn't become alcohol, it hadn't fermented yet. They only argue in the case where it didn't increase in volume. But if it had increased in volume, even though it hadn't fermented, the Rabbanan should hold also that you can and should be ma'aser minei ubei. Either way, Rabbi Elazar's approach to explaining reason Chachamim is consistent with the Mishnah, because the Mishnah cares about whether it fermented or not, and they also care whether it fermented or not. They're only discussing if it hadn't fermented. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braisa, Hatemed ad shaloi hechmitz, if you have temed that hadn't fermented yet, mashika b'mayim, then you can do hashaka in water. Hashaka means to kiss. Right, so you kiss the temed with water. What does this mean? The rule is that if you have water that's tameh, if you have impure water, and you want to make it pure again, so then, in order for it to become tahar, all you have to do is put it into a kli, and then dip that kli into a mikvah, and put it a little bit below the water level, and now the water in the mikvah connects with the water in the kli. It all becomes one body of water, and the tumah leaves the water that's tameh. The halacha is that if you have wine that's tameh, or any food that's tameh, there's no way to be mitaher that food that's impure. There's no way to make it pure by dipping it into a mikvah. Eichlin and mashkim cannot become pure once they're impure. However, if you have water that's impure, so then we have a whole other way of making it pure, not through immersing it into a mikvah in the regular sense of purification through immersion. Rather, the way the water can become tameh is that it connects to the water of the mikvah and becomes part of the mikvah. And once something is part of a mikvah, so then it's planted into the mikvah, and it loses its tumah status, not because it was immersed into the mikvah like a regular kli that gets immersed. It becomes pure because the impure waters kissed the pure waters and they became one. And since they became one, they lose their status of tumah. And says the Braisa that temed, mead, while it hasn't fermented yet, it still has a status of water. So then, if it gets hashaka, so then it could become tohor if it was impure. But misheichmitz, once it becomes fermented, if it's impure, ein mashika b'mayim, it's not going to help because it's considered wine once it ferments, and wine you can never make tohor again. Amar Rava, says Rava, lo yishanu ala shetimdoi b'mayim tohirim. Rava says the only time we say you can purify temed is if the original water that you stuck into the grape remnants was pure water. V'nitmu, and then afterwards, after it already sat in the remnants of the grapes, then it became tameh. Aval tmein. But if aval tmein mikar, if originally used impure waters, loy, so then the hashaka won't work. Now, Ozal Rav Gviha, the Gemara is going to explain why the Gemara is going to relate to this difference and try to explain why. Also, Rav Gviha mi bei Ksil. Rav Gviha from Ksil went and Amar l'shmaiti kamed Rabashi. He told this teaching of Rava in front of Ravashi. Amar lei, so Ravashi told him, Maishna tmein mi ikara deloi. He says, Rashi didn't understand this. He says, Maishna tmein mi ikara deloi. How come if the water was impure originally, then it doesn't work? Why? Damrinan aidi demaya yakiri. He says, since the water is heavy, shachni tatoi, they go underneath. They're shaychen, meaning they dwell at the bottom of the vat. Upera kafi milael, and the fruit juice, meaning what's left from the wine, that floats to the top. and therefore you're telling me that hashaka won't work. Meaning, again, Rava was saying that if you have a kli, that inside the kli is impure temet, and you want to do hashaka, you want to stick that into a mikvah. So says Rav Ashi that Rava said that if the original water was tamei, it doesn't work. Why wouldn't it work? He's saying the reason why it wouldn't work is because the water is on the bottom and the grape part is on top, and therefore the water underneath never mixes with the water in the mikvah because it's blocked by the layer of grape juice on top, and therefore hashaka doesn't work because all the grape remnants, all the grape remnants that it was absorbed into the water is floating on the top, and therefore that's blocking the hashaka to the water. So he says Yachi taharim ulvasayv nitvu. So he says, what's the difference? Who cares if it was originally tar and then it became tamei? Nami. Also, it should be the same halacha. It should be the same thing, because either way, the peri is on top, the fruit juice floats to the top, and the water is on the bottom, and therefore hashaka wouldn't work either. Elam ibabli, he says, Elamai, no, it all gets mixed in. It all gets mixed up and we don't separate between the top and the bottom. It floats, it doesn't float. It's all one big mixture. Achanami ibabli, also in the case when it's tumim ikara, when the original water you stuck in to make the meat is tamei, it also it gets all mixed in. So Rav Ashi really argues on this differentiation that Rava makes between when the water was impure originally or only afterwards. Masnisin. It says in the Mishnah, Kol makom sheish mecher ein knas, any time that there's a sale, meaning when a father can sell his daughter. The pasuk says, Chimkar ish es bitoy le'ama, that a father has the right to sell his daughter when she's iktana, as a slave. Anytime that halacha is active, that he can sell her, so then ein knas, she does not have knas. The Torah says that if a girl is either raped or seduced while she's a naira, so then the person who committed this vile act must pay knas. He has to give 50 kesef. And this is while she's a naira. So while she's able to be sold by her father, then there is no knas. And when she is eligible to get the knas, so then ein mecher, then she's not eligible to be sold by her father. Why? Because until she turns 12, she can be sold by her father. After she turns 12, when she's a naira, she cannot be sold, and the din of knas is only when she's a naira, not when she's a ktan. Okay, says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, says Rav Zuda Rabbi Meir. This is going according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Aval Chachamim say yesh knas b'mokom mecher. No, there can be knas even when there is mecher. There is a point in time when they're both eligible, when a girl is both eligible for knas and for her father to sell her. The Tanya, like it says in the Beit, if you have a ktana from the first day she's alive, first day she's born, until she brings two pubic hairs that make her into a gdoila, then yesh lo mecher. Then she can be sold by her father, the ein knas, but she doesn't have knas. Even if someone rapes her or seduces her, he's not obligated to pay the 50 coins until she's a naira. And mishatavi beisaris, when she brings the two hairs and she reaches physical maturity, then ad sheti boger, until she becomes a bageris. Bageris means she's 12 and a half. She's waited 6 months after she turned 12, and to 6 months after she sees the two cyrus. So then that's called bageris. She's fully adult. So from Beis Cyrus until she becomes fully adult, so then yesh la knas, she does have knas, the ein lo mecher, but she cannot be sold because she's past 12 already. She's past Beis Cyrus. She's a gdoila. She can't be sold by her father. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Shehaya Rabbi Meir Aimer, because Rabbi Meir used to say the rule, and this is the rule of our Mishnah, that says Kol makom sheyesh mecher and knas, wherever she's eligible to be sold, there's no knas. If she's eligible to get knas, then it's already too late to be sold. However, Chachamim argue and say, Ktana mibas gimel shanim. A Ktana from 3 years old, v'yoyim echad, and plus 1 day, ad shetiboger, until she becomes a full adult, yesh lo knas. She has knas. Knas in mecher loy, says the Gemara. It sounds like all she has is knas, but she can't be sold. Loy ema, the Gemara says, loy ema say af knas b'mokom mecher. She has knas even though she can be sold. Which means that according to the Chachamim, from the day she's born until she's 3, she has mecher and she doesn't have knas. But from age 3 until she's a begeres, she has knas. But in the middle stage, from age 3 until Beis Cyrus, so then she can be sold and she has knas. And then Chachamim agree that after Beis Cyrus until Begeres, she cannot be sold, but she does have knas. But either way, the Chachamim hold that the interim stage from 3 years old until Beis Cyrus, she both can be sold by her father, and she's eligible for knas if she's seduced or raped. Continues the Mishnah. Kol makom sheyesh miyun ein chalitza. Any time that there's a possibility of miyun, then there's no possibility of chalitza. Miyun is when a woman a girl is an orphan, she's a ktana, and the rule is that we just said before that a father can sell his daughter as a slave, but also he can marry her off to anyone he wants against her will as long as she's a ktana. However, if the father dies, then the brother or mother of the child have no biblical legitimacy to marry her off. And if they marry her off, it doesn't work midoraisa. However, Chachamim came and were misakin a concept called rabbinic marriage, that this rabbinic marriage works if someone else marries off this orphan who her father died. Now, this rabbinic marriage does not need a regular divorce get. It doesn't need a get. As long as she could just refuse, she gets up and says, "I'm not interested anymore," and she leaves. So this rabbinic marriage has miyun. Miyun means all she needs to do is refuse. Now, she can only refuse as long as she's a ketana. But once she becomes a gdoila, once she becomes an adult and stays married to him and consents to the marriage on her own right, on her own volition, once she has das, so then it now transitions from a rabbinic marriage to a biblical marriage, and you need a get. So says the Mishnah, Kol makom sheyesh miyun, as long as she has the possibility of miyun, that means she's still a ktana, so then ein chalitza. Then chalitza doesn't work. Chalitza is if one brother dies without kids, the other brother should do yibum to her, or if he's not interested in marrying her, he does chalitza. So if you have a woman who's a ktana, she can't do chalitza. We learn out that you cannot do chalitza to a ktana. And therefore, as long as she can still do miyun, she's a ktana. Because once she's a gdoila, then it's a biblical marriage, and therefore you need a real get. So as long as miyun works, it's still rabbinic, that means she's a ktana. And it's because her father died and someone else married her off, and therefore it's only a rabbinic marriage. And therefore miyun works. And since she's a ktana, so then she can't get chalitza if, let's say, her husband died without kids, and the brother wants to do chalitza, you cannot do chalitza because she's a ktana. The chol makom sheish chalitza. However, if there's a possibility of chalitza because she's a gdoila, so then ain't miyun. There's no miyun because she's a gdoila, and you can't have miyun. Fine. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rab. Zu divrei Rav Meir. This Mishnah is going to Rav Meir. Chachamim say yesh miyun b'makom chalitza. There is a possibility of having miyun with chalitza. How could that be? The Tanya ad mosai abbas memanes. Raisa says until when can a daughter do miyun? Ad shetavi Beis Cyrus, says Rav Meir. Rav Meir says until she brings 2 hairs, that's when she, until then she can be mimayim. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Ad she yarbe hashachar alalovin. It's not enough to have 2 hairs, 2 pubic hairs in the genital area, you need that the hairs grow a lot and there is more black than white, meaning the hair fills in and darkens that area, and then she's considered too old for miyun. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, from when she has Beis Cyrus, when she has just 2 hairs, she's considered a G'doila. She can do Chalitza, because she's considered a G'doila. However, she's still eligible till miyun until Yarbe HaShachar L'Lavan, until that place becomes more dark than white. And therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there is overlap, and the Mishnah is not going according to him, it's going only according to Rav Meir. Continues the Mishnah. Kol makom sheyesh tkiya ein havdalah. Anytime there's a blast, a shofar blast, then ein havdalah. There is no mitzvah of havdalah. Kol makom sheyesh havdalah. Anytime there is havdalah, ein tkiya, there are no blasts. What are we talking about? We're talking about on Erev Shabbos, they used to blast, in every city they used to blast with the shofar. They used to make noise, they used to blow the shofar in order to let everyone know that Shabbos is coming, you should stop doing melacha. So, whenever there is a blast, when they blow the shofar, then there's no need to do Havdalah, what we say, Amavdal Makadosh L'chol. So now the Mishnah is going to explain what are we talking about. What do they have to do with each other? Says the Mishnah, Keitzad Yom Tov Shechal Yais Be'erev Shabbos. Let's say you have a Yom Tov that falls out on Friday. So then, Toikin V'lei Mavdilin. The rule is that since on Yom Tov you're allowed to cook, you're allowed to do melacha that's for the purpose of food, therefore, Yom Tov is now more lenient than Shabbos. And therefore, once Shabbos is coming around, you have to be more strict. And therefore, there is a purpose in blowing the shofar and letting everybody know Shabbos is coming, and now stop cooking. Because until now it was Yom Tov and you were cooking. And so now Shabbos is coming around, so we have to blow. Just like every week we blow Bein Chol L'Kodesh, let everyone know to stop doing Melacha. So to over here, even though it's Yom Tov today, but still, since certain things are allowed on Yom Tov and prohibited on Shabbos, therefore we're going to blow the shofar to let everybody know that it is indeed Shabbos, and Shabbos is coming. However, loy mavdilin. However, in between Yom Tov and Shabbos, again, Yom Tov is Friday, and then Friday night comes Shabbos. You do not do Havdalah. Why? Because the rule is you only do Havdalah if you're going down a notch. If you're going from Shabbos to Yom Tov, which is down a notch, because Shabbos is considered more holy than Yom Tov, more things are also, there's more Kedusha on Shabbos than Yom Tov, and therefore, when you're going from Shabbos to Yom Tov, you do Havdalah, but when you're going from Yom Tov to Shabbos, you do not do Havdalah, because you're only rising up in Kedusha, and therefore there's no need for Havdalah. So, that's why the rule applies that when Yesh Tkiya, so then Ein Havdalah. Yesh Tkiya means because we're rising up, because we're having more prohibitions, and therefore there's higher Kedusha, and therefore you have to warn everybody there's higher Kedusha, and when there's higher Kedusha, so then you do not do Havdalah. But if Yom Tov is Chal b'Motzei Shabbos, if you have Shabbos, and then the next day, Sunday is Yom Tov, so then Motzei Shabbos you're Mavdil. You're Mavdil on Motzei Shabbos because you're going down a level in Kedusha, because you're going from Shabbos to Yom Tov, but ain't Tkiya. But there's no reason to be Tekeya because nothing is becoming prohibited. The only reason why you be Tekeya is to warn people that something is becoming Asr and to let you know that Yom Tov is coming. But who cares? Why do I need to know Yom Tov is coming? I'm already refraining from Melacha because of Shabbos, and no new prohibition is being added, and therefore there's no need to be Tekeya. Keitzad Mavdilin. Now the question becomes, the Mishnah explains, when you are Mavdil between Shabbos L'Choil, so then, between Shabbos to Yom Tov. Between Shabbos L'Choil you say, Baruch HaMavdil B'Kodesh L'Choil. But in between Shabbos and Yom Tov, let's say Shabbos, Yom Tov falls out on Motzei Shabbos, Yom Tov is Sunday, and you're going to say, because you're going down a level, from Shabbos to Yom Tov, so you're going to be Mavdil. So what do you say? You can't say, I'm Mavdil M'Kodesh L'Chol, like regular, because it's not Chol, it's Yom Tov. So says the Mishnah, we say Hamavdil ben Kodesh leKodesh. We do have to make Havdalah because it is less Kedusha, and therefore we want to show that there's a differentiation in the Kedusha of Shabbos to Yom Tov, and therefore we say Hamavdil ben Kodesh leKodesh. Because Yom Tov is Kodesh, so therefore we call it Kodesh. Rabbi Daisa says ben Kodesh Chomor leKodesh Hakal. We actually say we want to differentiate between the more stringent Kedusha, the higher Kedusha, to the lower Kedusha. And according to him, you say Baruch Atah Hashem, Hamavdil ben Kedusha Chamura leKedusha Kala. Or Hamavdil ben Kodesh Chomor leKodesh Hakal. Gemara. Heichi Tekeya. Says the Gemara, how is this Tekiya done? Rashi explains that we're talking about the Tekiya that is blown when Yom Tov falls out on Erev Shabbos, and therefore it's different than all other Tekiyas that you do during the year on Erev Shabbos, because on Erev Shabbos you're going from Chol all the way up to Shabbos, but over here you're already holding by Yom Tov, and therefore the jump to Shabbos is not so big. Therefore we want to differentiate to make another Tekiya. So asks the Gemara a different type of Tekiya, not the regular Tekiya that you do on Erev Shabbos. So the question is, how does that Tekiya look like? How does that Tekiya sound like? How's it done? So Rabbi Yehuda, read this as Tekeya, you blow, umeria mitoich Tekiya. Tekiya is a smooth blow, Meria is the broken up blow, and you are Tekeya, and then at the end of the Tekiya you do a Trua, like this. You start with a Tekiya, and without breaking at all, you go straight into a Trua. Rabbi Asi says no. Tekeya umeria b'neshima achas. You will be Tekeya, a regular smooth blow, and then you do the Trua, not mitoich the Tekiya, not that it's one continuous flow. You do stop a little bit, but you don't stop a lot. You don't breathe in between the Tekiya and the Trua. You just make a small hefsek. It's all b'neshima achas, it's all within one breath. So the difference is that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the Tekiya becomes a Trua without any break whatsoever, and according to Rabbi Asi, you have to break a little bit, but not take a breath. Rabbi Asi is like this. Askin continues the Gemara. Askin Rabbi Asi b'Hutzal. Rabbi Asi was established. He established in Hutzal kishmaite, like his opinion, like his teaching. He was in Hutzal and he said that this is the way it has to be done. Meisivei. Asks the Gemara. Yom Tov. The Brisa says Yom Tov shchalas Erev Shabbos. You have Yom Tov that falls out on Erev Shabbos. Toikin v'lei miriyin. So it says you only Tekeya and you're not Miriya. You only do the smooth blow. No Trua. So then, how could it be that how do Rabbi Asi and Rabbi Yehuda say that you do also Trua? It says the Farish in the Brisa you don't Loimerian. My love says the Gemara Loimerian Klal doesn't mean that you don't do Trua at all. Loi says the Gemara Loi. Rabbi Yehuda Mataras L'Tam. Rabbi Yehuda explains it according to his opinion. Rabbi Asi Mataras L'Tam. Rabbi Asi explains it according to his opinion. Rabbi Yehuda Mataras L'Tam. Rabbi Yehuda consistently explains the Brisa according to his opinion. Usually, you would do a Trua on its own, and what the Brisa means, it means we do not do it a Trua on its own. It comes connected, comes straight out of the Tekiya. Rabbi Asi explains according to his opinion, we do not. It means we don't do Trua with its own breath. That everything is within one breath, much closer together, and that is enough of a hecker for people to know that this is not the regular blow, this is the blow from Yom Tov to Shabbos. Uv Matzei Shabbos. On Matzei Shabbos, the Mishnah concluded that you say Havdalah going from Shabbos to Yom Tov, and the Nusach is a Mavdil ben Kodesh leKodesh, or according to Rab Daisa, you say Kodesh Chom leKodesh Ka. So, where do you say this? Amar Rabbi Yehuda b'chasimasa. You say it only in the ceiling, only at the end of the bracha. You say it at the end. He says you say it also in the psicha, also in the beginning. And the halacha is not like him. Meaning, when we say the final bracha of Havdalah, we say bracha Hashem Mavdil ben Kodesh lechoil, ben Or lechoshech, ben Yisrael la'amim, ben Yom Hashvi l'sheishes Yomei HaMaisa. So we mention the difference between ben Yom Hashvi l'sheishes Yomei HaMaisa in the Gufa bracha, and then the Chasima, when we end up bracha Hashem Mavdil Kodesh lechoil, so we mention again the difference in Kodesh lechoil. So the Gemara, the dispute over here in the Gemara is whether or not in the beginning of the bracha do you also mention Kodesh lekodesh in the psicha? Do you say Baruch Atah Hashem Kerem Mavdil ben Kodesh lekodesh ben Or lechoshech ben Yisrael la'amim ben Yom Hashvi l'sheishes Yomei HaMaisa Baruch Atah Hashem Mavdil ben Kodesh lekodesh? You say it twice. That the halacha is not like that. And the other opinion is like what we hold, that you stick with Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechoil in the psicha, and only the very end of the bracha changes Baruch Atah Hashem Hamavdil ben Kodesh lekodesh. Omer Reb Zera says Yom Tov shechal yis be'emtza Shabbos. Yom Tov that falls out in the middle of Shabbos, in the middle of the week, meaning in the middle of the week. You have a regular Yom Tov falls out in the middle of the week. Then, when you do Havdalah, Omer Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechoil ben Or lechoshech ben Yisrael la'amim ben Yom Hashvi l'sheishes Yomei HaMaisa. You say the regular nusach of Havdalah, the regular text. My time, what's the reasoning? Meaning, what's the reasoning of the Havdalah of Matzah Yom Tov to mention Ben Yom Hashvi l'sheishes Yomei HaMaisa? How does it make sense to say Yom Hashvi l'sheishes Yomei HaMaisa? We're not dealing with Shabbos right now. We're dealing with Yom Tov. It's Yom Tov, and you're making Havdalah from Yom Tov to Chol. Why would you mention Yom Hashvi l'sheishes Yomei HaMaisa? Answers the Gemara, Seder Havdalas Humayne. The reason why we say it is because we are just mentioning all the different Havdalas that are mentioned in the Torah. Meaning, the same way Hamavdil ben Or lechoshech and ben Yisrael la'amim don't have a necessary connection to Yom Tov, to the integralness of the difference between Yom Tov and Chol. We're just mentioning it because we're mentioning all the different things that God differentiated for us. Kodesh lechoil, Or lechoshech, Yisrael la'amim. So therefore we're also going to mention something that in Judaism is very integral, the separation of Shabbos and Chol. Therefore you're right, even though the actual Havdalah between Shabbos and the rest of the week is not relevant on Yom Tov itself, because it's not Shabbos right now, it's just Yom Tov, but still we're going to mention it because we're mentioning all the different Havdalahs. Rashi even says that each one of the Havdalahs mentioned have a pasuk that's mentioned, it's referencing a pasuk in the Torah. Like Kodesh l'chol is lehavdil ben HaKodesh uben HaChol, like what Hashem tells the Koyanim, and in Parshas Shmini. Vayavdil ben Or ben HaChoshech is a pasuk in Genesis 1. Va'avdil esrem min ha'amim li yisli, that's a pasuk in Kedoshim, or Achri Mois, which mentions also that's ben Yisrael la'amim. Ben Yom Hashvi, Hainu ben Kodesh l'chol, is the same thing as ben Kodesh l'chol. And therefore, these are all Havdalahs that are based on the pasuk, and therefore we mention them in the bracha. I would just add that there are a few Havdalahs that aren't mentioned in the bracha, like V'im Avdil ben Mayim l'Mayim. And the pasuk says also lehavdil bein hatomei u bein hatohar. We don't say it's not part of the Havdalah. If you have any answers, please comment in the comments below. Ad kan Chulin Daf Chof Vav. Hadron Allah Hakol Sheichtin. And we shall start Perak HaSheichet Be'ezrat Hashem tomorrow.